Good evening, SFBN fans. I'm your host, Nicki Jones, and welcome to another episode of In the Paint, a talk show dedicated to high school girls basketball in the state of Pennsylvania. On this week's show, we are going to recognize a couple girls who scored their 1,000th point, go over some games from District 12, and we're going to go up to District 2 and hear from our friend Rosie. So make sure you stay tuned for more. Welcome back. I'm your host, Nicki Jones, alongside our guest, Renee Washington, and then also Jill Fite. So let's get started for another week of girls basketball. Up first, we have District 12, the public league. The first game Joe went to was a girls high who defeated math, civics, and sciences. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, math, civics, and science ought to think about shortening the name of their school.
Yes, exactly.
It's a mouthful. But this was an important game for girls high, and they ended up winning the game 41-35, which pulled them into a first place tie with Sankofa Freedom in the Public League National Conference. And Janae Jarrett scored a game high 17 points, and Ebony Scott added 14 points for girls high. Girls high pulled away. It was 13-12 at halftime. Girls high pulled away in the third quarter. Jarrett hit 3 threes in that quarter to give them some space, and Math, Civics, and Science I think pulled within 5 or 6 late in the fourth quarter, but because of the lead they built in the third quarter, they were able to hold on to that lead. Yesterday I saw an interesting game at Dobbins Tech, right across the street from the old Connie Mack Stadium property, and they beat Ben Franklin 47-41. Dobbins broke a 33-all tie with about 6 minutes left in the game. A young lady named Jaylene Stone hit a jumper to give them the lead for good. And Deja Wright is a point guard for them. She's without a doubt the best player on their team. And it was senior day. She's a senior. She celebrated in grand style with 23 points. So she was a one-woman wrecking crew for Dobbins.
Very nice.
A couple of other notes from the public league. The Independence Conference, which is the top conference in the public league, Imhotep and Mastery Charter North played last night at 6 o'clock, a rare night start for the public league. And this was a rematch of the Public League Championship last year, which Imhotep won. Or I'm sorry, Mastery North won that. Imhotep had won the 2 years before that. Earlier this season, Imhotep won 59-47, and so the rematch was last night, and Imhotep won that one 46-41. That clinched the Independence Conference championship for them, and the number 1 seed in the playoffs, which begin on February 9th. The other note that I had was a young lady named Asia Abram. She's a senior point guard for Overbrook, and Asia scored her 1,000th point yesterday, and she could have scored it the other day against Franklintown Charter, but the game was at Franklintown. She had the ball under the basket, could have scored her 1,000th point at Franklintown, passed it up, passed the ball away so she could score them at home, which she did. She needed 2 points to get that.
That's something that I would have done. I mean, if I was in her shoes, you want to, go back to your home court and in front of your family and fans of your school and celebrate there. So I don't blame her.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
So she, congratulations go out to her. Things are tightening up in the public league. As I mentioned, the playoffs start on February 9th, which is a week from Friday, and I've been spending my time going over the seeds and setting them up for the seeding committee meeting next Tuesday.
And one thing I noticed, and I've been seeing this a lot in high school basketball in general across the Suburban 1 League, the Catholic League, the Public League, it seems like too. It's great that these schools, the teams that they are competing with for the top spot in their division, they are playing now. And I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It's not left in the hands of someone else. You know, this team has to do this and this team has to do that. It's these two teams are tied for second. They're facing off. Whoever wins clinches that clinches that spot. So I think as a fan, for anyone that's watching these games, as a parent, as a sibling, as a coach, as a player, how exciting is it to be able to go into a game knowing we control our own destiny and we can control where we're seated, power rankings, all of that in our own game.
There's basically 2 league games left for the public league teams, and as I mentioned, Imhotep clinched in the Liberty division, which is right below that. We've got Mastery Charter South, which is 10-0, and Omni Charter, which is 10-1. So it's going to come down to the and Prep Charter's right in the mix at 9-2. So it's going to come down to the wire on those 2. National Conference, as I mentioned, Girls High and Sankofa are tied at 10-1. In the American Conference, we've got Paul Robeson and Parkway Northwest. They're 8-0 and 8-1. And Edison kind of ran away with the Colonial Conference. They're undefeated at 12-0. So things are, games are going to be very important tomorrow and on Monday. And, as I said, for seeding and, for clinching conference championships. So looking exciting.
Yeah.
And then over to District 12, we also have similar things going on with, we have Newman Goretti, Archbishop Wood, O'Hara. Same situation. Like, these teams are, like you said, in control of how their season ends. And it's amazing for fans to see, better games versus in the beginning of the season where, games may be more of a blowout and you kind of don't really want to watch, but this makes it, worthwhile and worth going to. So the first game, Newman Goretti's last game against West Catholic, they won. They were up by as many as 20 at the halftime, and they're still undefeated, so this, makes things more interesting. And I know you're more of an expert on District 12.
Yes, I cannot speak thoroughly on the public league specifically, but District 12 has a lot of talent, a lot of good teams in it. I mean, looking at the Catholic League specifically, as you mentioned, Newman Goretti, Wood, and O'Hara, but you also have teams like Archbishop Carroll, Archbishop Ryan that are very good teams, and they cannot be overlooked. They're right there. I mean, the game between Ryan and Carroll was one that was very exciting and down to the wire. I know from being at the Palestra last year when we had the Catholic League Championship game and Archbishop Wood actually lost that game to Cardinal O'Hara. It was just so exciting. I mean, you see these types of atmospheres and crowds with the boys basketball side, but girls basketball was just as packed, it was just as full, and everyone watches, especially the Catholic League. And I know we were talking before the show about how these teams are matched up and who's sitting where, and I know, Joe, you have a lot more details on that, but it is really coming down to the wire here with these teams as they're facing each other.
So then we have Archbishop Wood, who fell to second place in the league. They also had some big games. Let's see, if they win their last 2 games, then they will advance to the district championship and be able to enter states as the number 1 or number 2 seed based on how they finish. So, it's really just down to the wire. These teams are playing to keep playing versus, losing potentially. They want to play and then go all the way to the end.
Archbishop Wood will probably end up playing Mastery Charter North from the public league in the District 12 championship game. And they've had that game for a few years now, and Woods come out on top every time. So, but both the nice thing is both teams get to go into the state tournament.
Right. And Archbishop Wood, as you mentioned, going on to the state tournament is a team that has not only tournament experience but also state championship experience, and that's something that you cannot take for granted. I mean, having teams that are used to playing deep into the season and having a good run. And then you have a player like Caitlin Oriole, who's a freshman for them, that is playing phenomenal, having a great rookie season, added to an already experienced group. Archbishop Wood looks like they're going to be another dominant team making a good run into the postseason.
I'm sure Mike McDonald would like to win the Catholic League Championship.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they're probably going to be in second place, but district championship, and I'm not sure how many state championships they've won now. Is it 2 in a row?
Yeah, I believe so.
So their best days are ahead of them in the postseason.
So we have a Cardinal O'Hara. They played on Tuesday against St. Hubert. And we have another 1,000-point player. Mackenzie Gardler scored her 1,000-point. And fun fact, her mom, Katie, also scored her 1,000-point in high school, who went to St. Joe's. And we have Mackenzie Gardler going to Villanova next year. So congrats to her. That's pretty big news. Yeah. And then Archbishop Bryan, they lost 3 straight to Carroll, which put them out of the playoffs for the 5A PCL. They only lost to Carroll by 3 points on Tuesday, so that was another, head-to-head game. And unfortunately for Ryan, they, couldn't capitalize on that and make it to where they wanted to be. And then also Ryan lost to Newman Goretti last Friday by 2 points. So Carroll will qualify for states if they win their last 2 games. And again, this is what, these teams have their fate in their hands. Or if Carroll finishes with the same number of losses as Ryan, then they also can continue to play. Both teams have 3 losses and 2 games remaining, so it's really just down to the wire for the majority of these teams right now with only a few games left.
The parity in the Catholic League is just phenomenal.
It is.
You've got O'Hara, Newman Goretti, Wood, Ryan, Carroll. All those schools can knock each other off on any given night.
Yeah, and if you look at Ryan, we talk about how they just lost 3 games in a row, but they lost by 2 points, 3 points. I think 2 points was the other game.
Right.
They lost to Newman Goretti. They lost to Carroll. They're not losing to lousy teams. They're losing with those teams that you mentioned. So that top group, they're very good. Very fun to watch.
And before we take a break, we have a Facebook comment. Hey, Ari. Thanks for watching. His question is, which teams from D1 and D12 have a shot at the state title? It's a good question.
Well, from District 1, I would say Plymouth Whitemarsh. I think they're, and we're going to go over the power rankings soon, but, Souderton, Central Buck South, Springford are all, very talented teams. And Plymouth Whitemarsh is right in that mix. So that's D1, and I'm sorry, what was the other one?
District 12. Yeah.
Archbishop Wood, they've been there, they've done it.
Are you saying that because Mike's on our show, or
no,
favoritism?
They're a very
biased answer.
Yeah, it's like the Patriots are experienced in the Super Bowl.
Oh boy,
Archbishop Wood is experienced in the state tournament. So
don't say that.
Well,
I think Eagles. Right. Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
Experience is experience, I guess, no matter what sport it is or who the team is.
Cardinal O'Hara is very talented with Gardler and and Newman Goretti has been in the state championship. So I'd say those are the schools from D1 and D12.
Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't thought that far ahead. And usually I'm wrong with these predictions, so I don't want to jinx anybody. But I do agree with you with Plymouth Whitemarsh and Taylor O'Brien, as she's a phenomenal player. So I cannot really see her and PW, and they've had some other girls that have been stepping up. I know we'll talk about them later more, but I don't see them losing. And then District 12, I don't know. Archbishop Wood really is one that I want to root for, and that's probably my my favoritism there. I followed their football team. I followed the boys basketball team the last, year now, still following them on their runs, wherever they end up going in the postseason. So I guess I'm also going to be a little biased and say Wood, but who knows?
It's a good bet.
Yeah. I'm not going to make a decision, but we will take a quick break and we'll be back with some information from District 1.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Welcome back. Thank you, Ari, for the questions. Pretty good question. We will see what happens. Who will win the state title from these districts? Moving on to District 1, we are going to the Suburban 1 League, and we have a couple games to just recap and let you guys know who won which game and how they're doing there. So up first we have Abington, who is 8-2 at Council Rock North, also 8-2. Abington won 54-48, and they are currently tied for second place.
A young lady named Sam Brush scored 18 points in that game for Abington, and it was a really close game down at the end, and Brush grabbed the rebound and converted a 1-1 very late to clinch that win.
Yeah, and the SOL National, the top three teams actually, and Neshaminy being in that group, is another, much like we talked about with the public league, is another grouping where the three teams are right there neck and neck. Neshaminy has a 1-game lead as we speak. And Council Rock North, I was actually at the game when Council Rock North and Neshaminy played the first time this season, and I've seen Abington play, and it's a great talented trio of teams, and I'm not surprised that it's coming down to the wire like it is.
We also have the score from the CB West and CB East game. CB West won by 1 point. That's another close game that we have. Everything is pretty much down to the wire.
I believe East had a pretty good lead in that game, and West fought back and ended up winning that game 48-47. Izzy Treon scored 23 points in that game, hit for 5 3-pointers. So that's always a rivalry game, East-West, in any sport, and a 1-point game in that scenario is probably expected.
Yeah, I'm sure the gym was rocking for that game. But, for West, they actually are just coming off last week. A week ago, they lost to Central Bucks South, and that's also a team they're competing for in the SOL Continental. And South really took it to them, and Izzy Trion didn't have a great game, and West as a whole didn't have a great game. They kind of struggled. So they really bounced back to get a much-needed win over East. But for her to have that breakout game, and West has a number of sophomores and underclassmen that are playing well. When you look at their roster, I'm not going to be able to find it now, but they really have some girls that are still trying to figure things out. And I think this late in the season, when you're playing teams that you're competing for against in those top spots, that's tough to be. You're no longer an underclassman. You're at the later part of the season, so we'd like to think you're mentally and have matured to be much like an upperclassman, but there's still some growing pains going on there. So that's a great win for them coming off that loss to South.
And Terry Rakowski does a great job with them, year in and year out. So, if he's the head coach, they're going to be in contention every year.
Yeah.
CB South, CB West, and Souderton are basically at the top of the Continental Conference. Souderton 7-1, CB West is 7-3, CB South is 8-2. East with some close losses, they're down to 6-4, but never count them out.
Never. And South has a tremendous, I would say like a big 2 or 3 that they've got going on, with Haley Meinl leading the way with that group. Also another well-coached group, very well-organized, and they're a team that is expecting to make a deep run into the playoffs. So for them and Souderton with Alana Cardona and different players, they actually had a very exciting game when they played each other a couple weeks back. But that's, again, much like the SOL National, those 3 teams are really competing for that top spot and should be fun to watch.
Also on our other show, Varsity Voice, yesterday, Frankie Stokes interviewed CB South's coach, Beth Mattern. Did I say that right? Okay. So if you guys are interested, make sure you guys go to Varsity Voice and listen and watch to that. Also, we have a Plymouth White Marsh player, Taylor O'Brien, who's averaging 24.5 points per game. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, that this team would win states with those kind of numbers, especially late in the season. She
scored 17 points in a win over Central yesterday in a non-league game, and she's a very talented young lady, and they have a couple girls who can score on that team. They did knock off Upper Dublin 35-31. We've mentioned Upper Dublin the last couple of weeks because of their fine defense. PW found a way to score some points in that game. Lauren Fortescue scored 14 points in that game against Upper Dublin. 11 of them came in the second half. So Plymouth White Marsh right now is 11-0 in the American Conference, and Upper Dublin's right behind them at 9-2.
Yeah,
Where's the Hicken hanging in there at 7-4?
Trying. But I think you make a good point in players like Lauren Fortescue, and I'm glad you said that because I did not know how to say her last name. But when teams are playing Plymouth White Marsh, they know what to expect from Taylor O'Brien. I mean, she's not a new face. She's been a part of this team and been one of the better players in this team for a couple of seasons now. And it's just really a matter of what the other girls do. You know, when they're going into districts and into states and they're playing at other top teams, will they have girls like Lauren Fortescue who will step up and be able to also score, take the pressure off Taylor? Or is it going to be a lot on her shoulders? So if these players on Plymouth White Marsh can continue to have those types of numbers, I definitely think they're winning districts.
And then also for District 1, you have some standings and some power rankings for us.
Yeah, we kind of went over the standings for for Suburban 1. We have the power rankings, and these are fresh off the press. And if I can find where well, in 6A, we have Souderton, they're number 1. Central Bucks South is number 2, and Springford's number 3. So those are not going to change all that much. Plymouth White Marsh is at number 5. And then you've got in 5A, the Westchester schools are still up there. You got Henderson, they're still undefeated at 18-0. You've got Westchester Ruston, 16-2. And Villa Maria from out in Delaware County, they're 15-5. Springfield Delco, so it's kind of like a Delaware County, cluster right there. In 4A, Lower Moreland is a very talented team. They're 13-4. Gwynedd Mercy is kind of pulling up. They're 12-7, and Nazareth Academy from the Academies League, they're at number 3. And then in 3A, you've got a school from District 11 because they have a sub-regional between District 1 and District 11. North Schuylkill is 15-1. They're from Ashland. St. Basil's, very good team. We've talked about them the last couple of weeks. They're number 2 at 13-5. In 2A, we have Sacred Heart and Delco Christian. They're both under 500. But as we mentioned last week, they play in conferences with bigger schools, and so they're playing tough competition. In Single A, we have Jenkintown 17-1. Parkway Northwest from the Public League and Sankofa from the Public League are 2-3. Speaking of Jenkintown, Jenkintown at one time was the second smallest school in the state of Pennsylvania fielding a football team.
Oh wow!
So they're a tiny school. It's almost like going to a private school. Young lady for Jenkintown, Ashley Kremp, scored her 100th career three-pointer the other day. Only 5 kids in the history of Jenkintown High School have done that. One of those 5 is her sister Jennifer, who happened to do it earlier this year. So 5 in the history of Jenkintown, 2 of them this year from the same family.
Related.
That's
pretty cool.
I came across that story on Twitter. It was being retweeted and liked and everything, and I was like, wow, this is very neat. And I didn't even know that Jenkintown was that small.
They're very
so
small.
you add that component into it, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So now to District 2, as promised, we have Rosie, who's going to give us some District 2 standings. So over to you, Rosie.
Thanks, Nikki. All right, we're going to start out with District 2 with 6A, Scranton leading the board here with 13 wins and 5 losses, following Hazleton area, 11 wins and 5 losses, then Williamsport and Delaware. Next, we have District 2 of 5A, Abington Heights leading the board with 11 wins and 7 losses. Then we have Crestwood, 10 wins, 6 losses, Wallenpaupack, 11 wins and 6 losses. Following them is West Scranton, North Pocono, Wyoming Valley West, Pittston area, and then Coughlin. Then we have a District 2 of 4A, 10 teams here, but Nanticoke starting it off with 15 wins and 1 loss, following Scranton Prep, 16 wins and 2 losses, then Wyoming area, 14 wins and 2 losses. Following them is Lake Lehman, Berwick, Dallas, Valley View, Western Wayne, Tunkhannock, and then Honesdale. Next up, we have District 2 3A, 11 teams here, but starting it off, 15 wins and 1 loss, Holy Redeemer. Dunmore, the same exact record. Then we have Holy Cross, 14 wins, 2 losses. Following them, it's Mid-Valley, Riverside, Hanover area, Montrose, Myers, Carbondale, Lakeland, and GAR. Next up, we have District 2 2A with 7 teams here. Old Forge has 7 wins and 8 losses. Following Northwest area, 7 wins and 8 losses as well. Following them is Wyoming Seminary, Mountain View, Elk Lake, Lackawanna Trail, and then Blue Ridge. Last up, we have District 2 1A. Susquehanna leading the board with 12 wins and 3 losses. Forest City, 5 wins and 9 losses. And then MMI is 0-16 for the season. That is your check on District 2 high school girls basketball. Back to you, Nikki.
Perfect. Thank you, Rosie. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll have District 11 and then also some cool stuff from the Friends League for you guys, so stay tuned.
We're talking goaltending here, and we're talking about high school rules as opposed to NCAA or NBA, which are slightly different. The referee is looking for 4 criteria. Number 1, is the ball on its way down? Number 2, is the ball fully above the rim? Number 3, was it an attempted shot? And number 4, did that shot have a chance to go in the opinion of the referee? If all 4 of those criteria are met, a goaltending call is made and the basket is good. Slapping the backboard is never goaltending. It's always a technical foul.
Welcome back. Up next, we have District 11, as promised, and we have Bethlehem Freedom, who beat Nazareth 55-44.
Yeah, this was a significant game for Bethlehem Freedom. They have not beaten Nazareth since 2006. In the meantime, they had lost 11 straight games to Nazareth. So this was a huge win for Bethlehem Freedom. They're trying to stay up in the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference standings. And a young lady by the name of Haley Silfies scored 20 points. Kyra Jefferson had 13 and Jennifer Kokolis had 10. They hit 6 of their first 9 shots in the game to kind of set the tone. And a young lady named Madison Amy nailed 5 3-pointers in the game.
Wow.
So that kind of broke the game open. She scored, I believe she had 3 of those 3-pointers in the third quarter. And Kokolis had 2 straight layups, and that kind of sealed the game for them. So Bethlehem Freedom right now is in 4th place in that conference. We've mentioned Easton and Bethlehem Catholic. They're 12-1 and 11-1 in that conference. Stroudsburg High School is right behind them at 11-2, and Freedom, Northampton, Parkland, Nazareth, they've all got 9 wins. So it's really, really compressed. And with their district playoffs coming up soon, that's all going to be sorted out soon. In the Schuylkill League, which is up in the in Mine Country, you have Montanoy area and North Schuylkill, who we mentioned earlier. They're both 11-0. Marion Catholic, which is right down the road from them, they're 9-2. And Minersville, that small little school from in the coal regions, who usually ends up playing West Catholic from the Catholic League, they're right behind there at 8-1. In the Colonial League, which is closest to Bucks County, Southern Lehigh is undefeated. They're 15-0. Northwest Lehigh is 14-2. Palisades is 10-5. Palisades is kind of a strange situation. They're located in Bucks County, but play in District 11 because the league they play in is located mostly in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, we were just talking about them before the show began, and they're kind of off in a strange bubble, I guess you can say, where they play a lot of lower Bucks County schools and some Catholic League schools and things like that, but they're way up there in Upper Bucks County or Montgomery County.
I remember covering a lot of games up there, and it was a trek.
Oh, yeah.
It was at least a 45-minute drive from wherever you were coming from. So,
at least there's a good ice cream spot up there.
Oh, yeah.
The important things
Fun
in
fact.
life.
Exactly.
We have another Facebook comment by Ari. Hey, Ari. Hey again. His question is, who will have a better college career? Taylor O'Brien, who's going to Bucknell, or Katie Connelly? How do you say her last name? She's from Souderton.
Connolly.
Connolly.
Yeah.
She's going to Drexel.
Renee?
Well, I actually have not even seen Kate Connolly play in person, so it's hard for me to have a fair answer because I've seen Taylor play a couple of times, and also knowing the Patriot League schools as someone who used to coach in the Patriot League. I want to go with Taylor because I just feel like she has the mechanics of being able to easily make that transition into college. So obviously high school to college is quicker, it's more physical, it's a different type of basketball. You know, she shoots well, she can get to the basket, she handles the ball well, she's got good size. So I'm going to go with Taylor, but I want to know, I think that's partly because I haven't seen Kate in person, so I could be wrong.
Connolly's a nice ball player. She played for Wood and transferred up to Souderton. Her family lives up there. She comes from some very good basketball genes. Her father, Mo Connolly, was a very good college basketball player down here, and he was also the boys coach at Archbishop Wood at one time. She's got some size, and she can handle the ball. She can shoot the ball. So I think she'll do a nice job in college. I don't think it'll be that much of a transition for her.
Mm-hmm. Based on the fact that you said she can shoot the ball, I think she'll do better at Drexel because I know from experience since I went to Drexel that they are a shooting team. Not this year, but in the past they've always been known as shooters. So
yeah, I guess that kind of plays a big role into, well, it definitely does, depending on the style of basketball that a team plays. Are they more of a Princeton offense or half-court offense? Do they run the ball more up-tempo? Are they shooting a lot more? So it just, I guess, for these two girls specifically, and for any high school player, it's a matter of how do they fit into that system.
Correct.
Good point. So lastly, we have the Friends League. We have some videos from there. Friday was Shipley Swamp Night, and then we have our last 1,000-point person, Anna Camden, who scored her 1,000 points. So let's watch and see what happened.
Set to tip off is the women's game between the Petty Falcons and the Shipley Gators. For the 4-10 Petty Falcons are Kylie Favors, Emma Rogers, Natalie Strelkis. Nice move by Ross into the paint, puts up a floater off the front rim, no good, gets her own rebound.
Sloppy game so far in these first 2 minutes of the second quarter.
Turnaround jumper from Camden.
She's going to pop.
Dribbles off a screen. Camden looking for 1,000, too strong on the layup. And they get it underneath to Camden. Double team rolls her way. Through it off the front rim. Rebound volleyed around and controlled by Petty. And screen, they give it to her right wing. Steps around the defender, puts it up, and she's fouled. She'll go to the free throw line. She'll shoot 2. And there it is. Family out there right now to get a photo, and how awesome is that?
Like I said before, Mike, it's
Shipley will hold on and go to 13-6 on the season with a victory, and with a loss, the Petty Falcons will fall to 4-11.
And with the Sports Fan Base Network, I am Josh Abrams. I'm here with Anna Camden, who just scored her 1,000th point tonight for the Shipley School. Anna, coming into this game, you're only 10 points away. What was your just original feeling coming into this?
I mean, I was definitely excited. This is something that I've been dreaming of since I was really young. Definitely nervous, hoping I wasn't going to choke, but mostly excitement.
Yeah, well, congratulations first and foremost. So after you scored your 1,000th point, it seems like the offensive energy kind of came down a little bit, and Coach Costello had you guys playing really good team defense on both sides of the floor.
So I think that was majority. I mean, the scoreboard, we were definitely up by a lot. We're not a team that likes to run people out unnecessarily. We were just working on our different offensive sets, but that doesn't mean letting up on defense. So that would explain.
Right. So you bounce back from a loss in your last game. You come back home and win. Where do you guys go from here on out as you get closer to the playoffs? Where do you guys think you're going to work on the most to get better and get to the top?
We're definitely going to work on our end of the game situations, and then just our offensive turnovers, something that we struggled with the last couple of games. But I think our team is right there. Obviously, we're going to learn from those games, but we're fully capable of bouncing back and beating everyone we've lost to.
Beautiful. That is awesome. Congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
With the Sports Fanbase Network, I am Josh Abrams with head coach Sean Costello of the Shipley School. Coach, you knew coming into this game that Anna Camden was this close to getting it. What were you thinking as you were coming into this game?
To be honest, we've been struggling a little bit, so we were hoping to get the W, and I kind of knew as long as Anna played her game that the 10 points would come.
It seemed like once she got to 999, it seemed like she was struggling to get right over into the quadruple figures. And then after that, it seemed as if the offense started to come down a little bit. Did you emphasize team defense throughout the second half as you were getting your bench players in?
Yeah, that was something we talked about at halftime. She was one shy at half, and we said, guys, if we play defense, we just run our stuff. Eventually, Anna's going to get a bucket. And we did a really good job on the defensive end today.
You guys did a good job of bouncing back from your last game, and now that you're getting closer to playoffs, where do you go from here in terms of your mindset and the team mindset for getting over the hump and winning some playoff games?
We always talk about you don't win the championships in December and January. So as long as we keep building and we get to the point where we're peaking during playoff time, we'll be happy. And that's where our focus is at right now.
All right, thank you so much, Coach, and congratulations.
That was amazing. That's always a great feeling for anybody to score their 1,000th point, especially, she had her teammates clapping for her, her opponents clapping for her, so it was just a good moment.
Yeah, and I mean, when I watched this, I was taken back by it because as someone, when I'm out covering games and these kids are scoring their 1,000th point, it's not the same as it used to be. You don't see that often. So a lot of times they kind of, they'll wait until the game is over, then a parent will come across with flowers or a balloon or something. They don't always stop the game. If you look in the video, everyone is cheering. I mean, there are players in the corner. You can hear the fans. You can see, as you mentioned, the petty girl. Her family's there. And we were talking about 1,000-point scores. It's just, that should be for every time a player gets 1,000 points. I don't care if they're losing, winning, home, away, whatever. You should stop the game and honor them. It's a big hurdle to get over. So why not take time to stop the game, give them their flowers, give them their moment, and then you can resume.
and then everything can resume after.
Exactly.
Sounds good. So for next week, what do you have for us? What should we look forward to?
Well, the thing to look forward to is the last week of the regular season, and teams. A lot of teams are going to be in there trying to get those last couple of wins to get up in the power rankings and get a nice seed for the district playoffs. The District 1 seeding meeting is on Sunday, December 10th at Pencrest, and after that, district tournament begins. There's going to be 24 Class 6A teams in it, and that's always pretty exciting. So next week is going to be trying to get those last couple of wins, get those power rankings up, and then there's no suspense at the seeding meeting anymore. Back in the day, you get a couple of representatives from each league, and they would just yell and scream and fight with each other. My team deserves to be number one. No, my team does. And so then they went to the power ranking system, which I believe Buff Raddick from Council Rock South devised. And it's a very complicated mathematical formula. And it kind of takes all the guesswork out. The only guesswork is to make sure that the team's records are accurate and the records of their opponents are accurate. That's what it's all based on.
Yeah, it's funny because so many people criticize the district seedings, the alignment of the districts, the power rankings, but it definitely sounds a lot better than how it used to be. Oh, yeah. And I will also say we were talking about getting out to games before the show, and this is the second season, the real season, I guess you can say. Sorry to the teams that don't make it to the postseason, but every game is exciting now. Every game has a purpose, a meaning. Every game is much more emotional. So this is an exciting time for high school basketball and for people to check out what's going on.
It's like pre-March Madness before the
NCAA
has theirs.
Everything's coming down to the wire this week.
That is the theme of today's show, down to the wire. So that's it from us. We will be back every Thursday, aka next Thursday at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. Basically just providing you guys with more updates on high school basketball and let you guys know how these teams finished up. You can always watch In the Paint by downloading our latest podcast. Just go to the iTunes store and search Sports Fan Base Network. download episodes on there, but most importantly, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Don't miss other shows that we have, like 3 in the Key, which comes on Monday nights, which talks about high school boys basketball, On the Mat Tuesday nights, and then our all-new Varsity Voice on Wednesday nights. In the meantime, be sure to go to our website, www.thesfbn.com, to check out more information on high school sports and anything related to that. Thank you, Renee, for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You.
Great having you.
Thanks again, Joe, for being here with me.
My pleasure.
And we will see you guys next week. Bye.